Easier to breathe, easier to practice, and this evening's topic is about the yoga of self-empowerment. And in other words, all yogas lead to that part. All yoga is about feeling self-empowered. In my life, I've seen there are many different ways of doing this, and it's such a broad topic. I'm just going to skim the surface. Yeah. And so when I started doing yoga in Australia, we started with yoga asana postures. We did some pranayama breathing. We did yoga nidra, short yoga nidra. And what I notice is the change now in the West. A lot of yoga is purely about the asana. And I don't know if you have it here, but in Australia we've gone from beer yoga to gin yoga to vodka yoga. Do you have those yogas here?
Those yogas do exist here, yes.
Okay, so in other words that says to me everywhere. And that really is a gimmick to get people in. It's not what yoga is about. It's not about doing an exercise, a pose, and then having a swig of gin or vodka.
We don't do that here.
No.
But it exists. I just want to clarify.
So, we could have water yoga, but would that attract people? I don't know if it would attract people. For me, yoga was empowering when I first started, not so much from the physical point of view, because I'd come from ballet and I wanted to give up classical ballet. And ballet can challenge you physically just as much as yoga can. Ballet can give you insights about yourself, so can yoga. What is the difference? For me, it was the yoga nidra. And, well, it was the breathing, but I always had sinusitis and I didn't like breathing with blocked nose. That was very uncomfortable. But what yoga gave me was a tool to overcome my sinusitis. The yoga nidra attracted me because I found a way of managing my emotions through the yoga nidra. And so my father's side of the family is Hungarian. I don't know if you know any Hungarians, but they can be a little bit like Italians, mamma mia, ay, 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 said my grandmother. So, can be quite explosive and very emotional, and I'm not saying it's not appropriate to show emotions, but it's how you show your emotions. So the yoga nidra was one of those moments. Had we had this expression in those days, I would have gone, yes. We didn't have those expressions back in 1972. But that was the feeling. It was, yes, this is what I needed. And I hadn't quite given up ballet, and the yoga nidra taught me to relax. It showed me how I could get down in the splits. Within 2 weeks I was down in the splits, and I'd been trying for years. And I realised what I was doing, I was actually resisting. I was pushing and resisting. And that said to me, well, I must be doing this in my life. I might have been 12 years old, but I was still very aware. I don't think that kids, when they're young, don't have awareness. Kids have awareness. And so we all have awareness as we're growing up. Society sometimes teaches us how to block that awareness. And yoga shows us a way around that and to reopen the door. So you've all been doing yoga for some time. You must have had a moment where you said, this is empowering. Does anyone want to share a moment that they've had?
For me, I was 18.
Yeah.
So that's a long time. And I think those first few classes, I grew up in Amsterdam, and it was kind of happening again then. And those first few classes, I think, changed the trajectory of my life, usually, because they started to inform my decisions very quickly without me even being that aware. I think, So yeah.
Anyone else want to share? It might have been something you've experienced in asana. You've understood something about yourself.
I think that for me, the practice of yoga, and I did, the gateway for me was definitely yoga asana.
Yeah.
But that things were changing on the inside of me, my mental state, the way that I was feeling, but nothing had actually changed.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a shifting of the internal alchemy or energy of the body,
Yeah.
based purely on the practice.
Yeah.
And that was the aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share a moment?
I'll share that after giving birth to this little guy, just getting back into, well, first of all, how much those practices have helped me without asana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially getting back into having time for myself again and re-entering into it, it's really fresh. That feeling of coming home, feeling of really feeling a sense of freedom and peace.
Yeah. Yeah, and that coming home, I think this is one of the key words, coming home to yourself. Yeah? Yeah, because life pulls us out of ourselves. And we believe the things that we see in the external world. What does that mean? We believe the advertisements that we see. We believe that the things that our peers are doing are the things that we need to be doing. Yeah? We believe that if someone says to us, you're hopeless, then we think, oh, I must be hopeless. Not always. Sometimes we're fighters. And we go, no, I'm not. But nonetheless, there are always things that we see in the external world, and we take that on board and believe that to be true. Yeah? Due to the society that we live in, due to the people that we may respect, due to not thinking out of the box, maybe. Yeah. Many reasons are there why we believe what's in the external world. One of the main reasons is that our mind is looking outward. And when we start to practice yoga, we start to look inward. And as we go inward, sometimes we may not like what we feel, we may not like what we see. I had one lady after a beginner's class come up to me and say she's not coming back to yoga. Yoga makes her angry.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I've heard people say that, yeah. So when we look inwards, we see all sorts of things. And this is actually good. If you're feeling angry, fantastic. It's showing you that there is something in your life that needs adjusting. Some behaviour, some expression, some goal possibly that you're not working towards and you want to, but you're inhibiting yourself. You might blame it on another person and think, oh, they're stopping me from doing it. But ultimately, who's stopping us? Yeah. So, yoga opens the door to looking at your inner self. When this happens, we see through filters. And so what yoga assists us in doing is removing those filters so that we can see ourselves clearly. So if you see angry, if yoga is making you angry, that's an angry filter. Because something in the life is not looking the same as what you picture in your mind. Yeah? We all have pictures in our mind of how we want our world to be. And when the external world picture isn't matching that, we have a reaction. Through the process of yoga, we learn to witness ourselves. That means step back and have an objective view. When we are seeing the external world, our mind is engaging in the world and we have a subjective experience. We become whatever it is we're looking at. Yeah? It's like when you watch a movie, you know, your life integrates with that person's life or people's lives. And you're thinking about how you would handle it, and then sometimes you feel like it's even happening to you because you're having a subjective experience. And then you get together with friends and you say, oh, did you see what happened last night? Oh, I know, isn't it terrible? And you're feeling it inside your gut, you know, as if it's happening in your life. It's just a movie on television or Netflix or wherever you've seen it. That's subjective experience. And interestingly enough, back in the 1990s, an Italian research team discovered that we as humans have mirror neurons. We have mirror neurons in our brain, so we mirror each other. And if we're having a subjective experience, we become what we see, in other words. From the point of view of yoga, developing that ability to just step back, and it takes time to develop this, to step back and see it as something separate than yourself, having that objectivity, then you can see your reactions, but you may not choose to hang on to that reaction. You may choose to do, think, and behave in a different way. This is where yoga becomes self-empowering. So as an example, you're doing asana. And when you're having a subjective experience and you're thinking, oh, I can do better than this, and you push yourself and injure yourself, or you're competing with somebody else you see in the room and you injure yourself, you're having a subjective experience. With the objective experience, you step back and you see that you can only go so far with it. You've made necessary adjustments, but you can see your body has its limitations. Yeah? And we take that with us into life. We see in life that we have a certain capacity and we have our limitations. Subjective experience is we might know we have limitations, but we push beyond that. We don't accept our limitations. Or, on the other hand, we've been told that we're no good at something, so we make ourselves smaller. We not only accept the limitation, but we decrease our capacity by saying whatever we've heard. Maybe it was a teacher gave you a poor mark on something, and so you think, oh, I'm no good at that, and so you keep putting yourself down. I'm no good at that, I'm no good at that. Make yourself smaller and smaller and smaller. And sometimes we do something that may be inconvenient. We might have forgotten something, and we'll say, oh, stupid me. So we're making ourselves smaller. We're reinforcing what we've heard.
Is it okay to ask questions?
Yes.
So I keep thinking about karma. This is part of the process.
Could be. When you have that objective vision, when you have that ability to step back, you will see the karmas. You will know, like in your family, there will be certain karmas. And you'll see those karmas and you'll see yourself doing those. Karmas are the actions which manifest as behaviours that have been going on ad infinitum within a family. And because of the mirror neurons, we replicate that. When we have the capacity to step back and see that we're doing the same, then we can make a choice. I'm stopping that here. I'm not doing that behaviour anymore. Yeah? So yes, it can be a karmic thing. The word karma means an action. It comes from the root kri, to do, to act. And so a karma, a simple karma of the body is I'm drinking water, and because it's warm I'm going to perspire it out, and if I drink more than I can perspire out quickly, I'm going to need to use the restroom. Yeah? This is a karma. When I eat food, I'm going to have a bowel motion. This is a karma of the body. You plant a seed, you water it, and it will grow. This is the karma of the seed. And depending on what type of seed it is, it will grow into that. If I plant an apple seed, it can only grow into an apple tree. That is the karma of the apple seed. Do you understand? So these are the karmas in nature. We have these karmas within us, in our life too. And so we might have done something in our life to hurt someone purposely. Let's say we've purposely chosen to hurt someone emotionally or even physically. It's going to come back to us. This is what we call karma. When we are nice to people, nice to animals, nice to the environment, it's going to come back to us. Because what we put out comes back. Yeah? It's like a spring. You push it down, it's going to push back. And so yoga empowers us through self-reflection, the ability to stand back, to be objective, just in a split second. And to make a choice. You know what your default behaviour is, and maybe that's what's expressed itself. But you're witnessing, and then you can say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Yeah? What I actually meant was, and then you can explain yourself more fully. When you have the capacity to witness in an ongoing, moment-to-moment experience, this happens through long-term yoga practice or an awakening. The ability to witness yourself can happen at any time. And I remember when I was on my 12th birthday, I thought there was a ghost behind me. I was at school and I was totally freaked out, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm being followed by a ghost. She said, yeah, I can feel it too. She was really sensitive. And at the end of the day, I just ran home with this ghost following me. And I said to my mum when I got home, there's a ghost, and I was crying, there's a ghost following me. It's still there, it's been there all day. And we had a ghost in our house, and it was a different type of experience to that. We lived in this old 120-year-old house, and this was a totally different experience, but I related it to a ghost. It wasn't until I started doing yoga nidra that I realised, oh, that wasn't a ghost when I was 12, that was me. I was watching me. But I didn't know how to express it. I hadn't started yoga then when I was on my 12th birthday, it was later in the year. So these experiences happen and we don't know what the experience is. Sometimes when you practice meditation or yoga nidra or similar type of practice, you feel like you're coming out of your body. Has anyone had that experience? Like you're expanding. Sometimes people feel like they're up on the ceiling. people who have near-death experiences talk about this too. And so, you know, we're not used to that sort of experience. We when it first happens, so we think it's weird, and how am I going to get back into my body? And when these experiences, such as coming out of your body, occur, we think it's something frightening and we shut it down. Yeah? And these type of experiences happen a lot to young children. Or children might have a friend, yeah, the friend that can't be seen. Parent will say, there's no one there. Stop being silly. But for the child, there is someone there. My mum used to play with the fairies. She was always playing with fairies in the garden. And the fairies were there. I know they were there because my mum, she talks to trees. The trees talk to her still. We were walking down a track one day in the country in Australia, and my mum started laughing. I said, what are you laughing at? She said, oh, the tree told me a joke. I said, well, tell me the tree joke. She said, you won't find it funny. It's a tree joke. I said, well, at least you can tell me and then I can decide whether I think it's funny or not. So she told me and I said, yeah, you're right, it's a tree joke. So she maintained that sensitivity. She was lucky she maintained that. And that's empowering. Those sensitivities are empowering because then you can communicate. Yoga assists you in that process of communication with yourself and with other people, or maybe with trees, maybe with mountains, maybe with rivers. You receive information, and sometimes the information is purely coming from your higher self, and sometimes it is coming from the tree. And how yoga empowers you is that you listen to it and you know that it's real, that you're not making it up. Because you know it, you feel it in here in the heart space, you know it inside your mind, there is a picture there, and you know it's real. When we used to have landlines, phone would ring, and you'd say, oh, that's so-and-so. And you'd pick it up and go, I knew it was you. Yeah? Now the mobile rings and it tells you who it is. So you don't have the opportunity. But sometimes what happens to me, I'm thinking, oh, why hasn't this person rung me for such a long time? And then the phone rings, just like that, a few seconds. How do we get to that stage of knowing what is real? I think of what my mum says, it's when your heart sings. For her, it's when her heart sings. For me, it's a feeling. I don't know how you're going to feel it. But in order to experience that, you need to have that quiet time, like you were saying. You need to have that quiet time with yourself. And I think what happens today is that there's so much information coming at us and available to us that we forget to just sit and be. You know, I remember my younger son when we were driving, and he was so used to seeing things on iPods, iPads, computers, that he couldn't just sit in the car and look out the window. He was always used to having lots and lots of information. And I understand his need. He has a very fast mind. But the beauty of yoga is that it enables you, through doing asana to start with, to be with yourself, to be with your body. And there's always a component in an asana class where you're still at the very end, whether it's just a shavasana or if it's a more prolonged yoga nidra. You have that opportunity to be still and to listen And if you're feeling angry, that's fine. If you're feeling frustrated, that's fine. If you're feeling sad, disappointed, it's fine. Look at it. Where is it coming from? What is the source? What is the cause? Because the mind will do all these different emotions, just as the weather. The weather does lots of different expressions. And we don't say, I have to control the weather. We might like to, but we can't. We put up an umbrella, we wear a raincoat. When it snows, you wear all your snow gear. You don't try to stop it snowing. So why do we try to stop our mind from expressing? The mind needs to express, but we need to step back from it and say it's okay to feel whatever. It's normal, that's human. What is behind that? What is behind that emotion? What is behind that feeling? Is it because I'm not getting something that I want in the world? And then how do I get that? You see, we have basic needs as human beings. We have very basic needs. And these needs may express in a multitude of ways, but we have a basic need for safety and security. And because of that need, we build a house, or we put up a yurt, or a tent, or we live in a motorhome. What do you call motorhomes? Mobile home. Yeah? We have a roof over our head. We have a shelter to feel safe. Whether you live in a Western society or whether you're a yogi living in nature, you'll find a cave. Yeah? So that you have shelter. Safety and security. So if we're not feeling safe, then we might be feeling fearful. If we're feeling fearful, we may not realise what our need is to feel safe. You see? So you look at the fear. Where's the fear coming from? What is the basis of the fear? Am I feeling unsafe? So the question is, I always talk about this, what do I want? I want to feel safe. What am I doing to get it? Sometimes people are in abusive relationships, physically abusive relationships, and they continue that, even though they're feeling unsafe. They continue that, they continue it, until they feel really unsafe, super duper unsafe, fearing for life unsafe. And at that point, most people will do something about it. So how do we fulfill that need? Sometimes people want more than is necessary, or more than is affordable. So it's about looking at what is possible, what is reasonable. Yeah? Sometimes we need to modify our desires and just go back to the basic desire. What is it I need? I need a roof over my head. So what I've got at present is suffice. It's coming to terms with not mediocrity, it's coming to terms with what is possible. Like I was talking about the body before, and not doing more than what is possible, working with your body. It's the same thing with these needs. Doing what is possible. The next need that people experience is to have fun and to play. That's the one. And kids really know how to have fun and how to play. And as adults, we tend to lose that because we've got bills to pay. There's a song about that. You know the song I'm talking about? About paying the bills? Anyway. We'll sing it Kirtan later, not about bills. How can we live our life and have fun? There are circumstances we need to take seriously, I understand, but how can we do that in a playful way? Even if we need to keep a poker face, how can we be playful with it? This drive engages us with the physical world, the sensual